And welcome to this week's coaching clinic, Regain Your Bearings, Then Decide. I think that's such an important subject, it has had such an impact on my life to understand when I've lost my bearings and when I need to settle down and come back to center, regaining my bearings before making decisions, before opening my mouth about something, and just has made for a way more graceful experience of life, and has on many occasions turned my business around when things looked hopeless or despair was in the air. And just understanding what I'm going to share with you today, just understanding when we've lost sight of our bearings and when we've moved beyond the centered space, just understanding when that is going on really does save a lot of sinking ships, whether the sinking ship is your relationship or your business or your finance or maybe your diet, maybe your healthy routines. It doesn't matter what the content is or the subject. One of the first things humans do, and the only species to do it, is to speed up and run further away from their bearings when they get lost or worried. And I've shared this before. If you look at an animal in the wild, when it gets lost, you'll see that it stops still and begins to intuit and connect with the direction before heading off in a new direction. And there's a lot for us to learn there. There's a lot for us to take example from, because our conditioning has often led us to go faster and faster when we get lost or worried or scared. And so in today's clinic, I want this space to be a space where you begin to regain your bearings and you begin to intuit the direction that you are destined for. Because as you do that, you will find your life is less complicated. You will find that you are in the right place at the right time. And it just clears up any mess. It really does. When you regain your bearings, you do not make mistakes and you do not make decisions that you end up regretting. So this is an invitation today during the clinic to really embrace the number one thing that will support you in going forward. I know how tempting it is when you get scared, when you get worried, when you get insecure. I know how tempting it is to try and fix the problem by over efforting, by trying harder, by figuring out, by pushing. But all of that is still coming from the same mind and the same level of consciousness that created the problem in the first place. That's experiencing the problem. So in regaining our bearings, we have access to a higher level of consciousness. And at a higher level of consciousness, no matter how small that shift might be, but at a higher level of consciousness, we see more clearly. I've often referred to this analogy that it's a bit like going up the Empire State Building. As you go up the Empire State Building, if you only get as far as floor 2 or 3 of the Empire State Building, the view you have of New York City is not the view you have at the top. The view you have on floor 2 or 3 is blocked, other buildings, not a lot of options for seeing around you. As you go on up and you get further up to the top, you really do see the entire city. Now you have the full view of, you can see in the background, my painting, the Chrysler Building. You have the view of the Chrysler Building. You have the view of all the other buildings. You can see Central Park. Well, it's the same with our state of mind. As we go up in consciousness, we go up a couple of floors, we see differently. As we get further up, because we've regained our bearings and we're no longer living in fight or flight and insecurity, as we go further up, our level of consciousness rises, and we now have access to ideas and solutions and viewpoints that we simply don't have when we're down here on floor 2 or 3 of the elevator of consciousness. So in today's clinic, we're raising the elevator of consciousness. We're moving up the floors as best we can. And although it might seem for some of you like, oh, I don't have time to do that because I need to fix this problem now, or, I can't really be getting into regaining my bearings because over here, this situation is so urgent and so important. All of that is an indicator that regaining your bearings is exactly what needs to happen right now. And as you do, your state of mind changes, your ability to navigate the problem changes for the better, and you have access to ideas, solutions, direction that you just don't have when you're living on those lower floors in anxiety and stress and worry and fear. So let's get into our guided meditation to support us to begin with. And let's see where this conversation goes today. I'm going to be open to your questions. I'm going to be open to what you want some coaching on. It might not be in any way connected to what I'm talking about, and that's okay. But in any case, the questions you come forward with after a meditation like this, you'll find are very different to the questions you come forward with when you're just coming from a very anxious place. So I invite you to close your eyes. I invite you to simply just be here in the space with us now and take a few deep breaths, because if there's one thing that helps us center as quickly as possible, it is connecting with that breath. So in through the nose, 2, 3, 4, out through the nose or the mouth, 2, 3, 4. Let's keep that rhythm going for a few moments. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4, and out through the nose or the mouth, 2, 3, 4. Letting yourself be here, letting yourself be in the space. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Out through the nose or the mouth, 2, 3, 4. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. And out through the nose or the mouth, 2, 3, 4. You're slowing down the breath now. So in your own rhythm, continue that pattern. But on the out breath, extend it to 5 or 6 if you can. See roots coming from your feet down through the ground into the underground, right down to a rock at the bottom of the earth, and wrap those roots around that rock. Golden light emanates from this rock, and it moves up through the roots, through the underground, up into the ground, up into the floorboards, up into your feet, your ankles, swishing now up through your legs, the front of your legs, the back of your legs, your kneecaps, up through the thighs, up through the buttocks and through the sexual organs, on up through the torso, through the stomach area, the rib cage, up through the back of the spine. The golden light continues to move. On up into the chest, up into the neck, the front of the neck, the back of the neck. Golden light and energy out through the shoulders, down through the arms and the hands, out through the fingers, and back up through the arms, up under the armpits, right on up through the neck, through the head, out through the hair, until you're completely covered in this golden light. This light is a healing balm. If there's any part of your body that has been experiencing pain or discomfort, intend now to send this light directly to that area. This light supports and grounds you, heals you, and covers you. In your mind's eye now, I want you to imagine a rope. And this rope is a couple of inches above your head. It's a rope you can grab onto. Almost like you're grabbing onto something to hold on the London Underground or the Paris subway or the New York subway, something that you're grabbing onto, you're grabbing it to hold it. Do that now in your mind's eye. See yourself grabbing onto that piece of rope that will hold your hand and ground you. And intend with your own intention now, intend that you are centering yourself. See a golden path in front of you and let yourself walk on the path, knowing that you have grabbed onto that rope, you've centered yourself, you've steadied yourself. Walk steadily along the golden path now. And at the end of that golden path, there are a number of steps. I want you now to just imagine yourself walking up those steps. And as you get to the top of the steps, there's a door. Walk through the door. Notice what is there as you enter. See within that space a gorgeous crystal bed, a healing bed, and go and allow yourself to lie on that gorgeous crystal bed now. As you take that space, still supported by the golden light, just see yourself lying there. And set your intention now that you're ready to regain your bearings in general. And if there's a specific area that you are feeling so wobbly about or so concerned about, so not centered about, set your intention now that on this healing crystal bed, you will regain your bearings in that area too. as you're lying on that bed, we're going to clear the chakras now. One of the ways we can come back to center is to clear each chakra and resize each chakra to be in alignment. So I want you to imagine now your root chakra, which is a couple of inches above the pubic bone, and it's a red color. So see a beautiful red circle forming. And let that red circle just shine. If there's any part of it that's dark or dusty or too enlarged, just allow it now to be resized, any size you want, but remember each chakra will essentially be the same size. So your root chakra is all about security, finance, being in the world. So really intend that this root chakra, this red colored chakra, is centered, is resized, and is shining bright. A couple of inches above that now, we moved to the sacral chakra. This is an orange colored circle. Notice what size it is. Is it dark? Does it need dusting? Is it okay? The sacral chakra's got everything to do with sexual energy and creativity, appetite, desire. Resize it now to be the same size and directly above the root chakra, so it's in alignment. And see it glow as a beautiful orange. A couple of inches now above that, we get to the solar plexus, a gorgeous yellow sun-like circle. Again, resize this solar plexus chakra to be in alignment with the others. And this chakra is all to do with power, personal power, inner power, discipline, willpower. See it glowing brightly. Couple of inches above that now, we move to the heart chakra, a beautiful green circle right in the center of the chest. Resize that now, ensure that every chakra is in alignment. Not too much to the left, not too much to the right, just one above the other. And this heart chakra energy, all to do with heart's desire. Ask your intuition now as you're right there at the center of your heart chakra. What is my heart's desire? See that chakra glowing a beautiful emerald green, aligned, supported. A couple of inches above that now, we move to the throat chakra, baby powder blue color, right at the throat, all to do with communication, all to do with being able to share in this world. Resize it now. See it as a beautiful glowing baby powder blue color. Let it support you in your communication with others, with the world, with what you have to offer, and with speaking your truth. A couple of inches on up now, right between the eyebrows, and we touch the third eye chakra, the chakra of all seeing. I often see this as a kind of amber color. So just size it and refreshen it. This chakra will help you see more clearly directions, see the way forward, see what you need. And then a couple of inches above the head now, we get to the crown chakra. A violet, purpley, gorgeous circle. Infuse it now with even more color. The chakra of all knowing, all understanding. When you just know something, your crown chakra is at work, your intuition and your crown chakra are working together. So just see that chakra now, beautiful color. And look at yourself lying there on the bed and just have a look. Are all the chakras the same size now? If not, go in there and intend to align. And are they in a line rather than some of them pushed out to one side? As we're regaining our bearings, we want to reconnect our spiritual energy, our core. So our chakras in total alignment, glowing brightly, is what we're looking for. Beautiful. Now gently and slowly coming up from the bed. Feel your feet on the ground and walking back to the door. And down the steps. And onto the golden path. You've done your healing work. You've done your initiation. Your bearings coming back to center. And walking along the golden path. Until you get to the end and you feel your body now on the chair or on the bed or on the sofa. Feel the heaviness of your legs. Feel the strength of your feet on the ground. And see roots coming from those feet down through the ground into the underground, right down to a rock at the bottom of the earth, and wrap those roots around that rock. Coming back into the room, slowly moving your fingers, moving your toes, moving any part of your body, and opening your eyes. If there's something you want to write down, do so. Just let yourself be here. If you would like to type a comment for me in the box, just a word or a sentence to describe your experience of that, or anything you want to share, anything you got from that. Got a lot of lipstick on my cup. How was that? Did you feel yourself coming back to center? You can just type in the box, in the chat. So, regaining our bearings. Might arbitrary or a bit like, I'll get around to that once I take care of my bank statements, or once I take care of my, you know, my children or whatever. But regaining our bearings does more than just center us. It helps us become discouragement proof. And it helps us call in bigger things. Without a strong mental bandwidth and energetic bandwidth, we can't receive at a bigger level. When you're always busy and you're running around and you're rushing and there's no space and there's no time and there's no this and there's no that, you may as well not even attempt to put anything out in the world and expect a result. I've seen this over and over. I've seen it with my clients. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with my coaches. When we are trying to call in new opportunities, whether that be in the form of romance or money or a job, whatever, when we're trying to call in new opportunity, we need a level of mental and energetic bandwidth that is able to contain and receive and contain what we're calling in. Too often, we're trying to launch things into the world, desires, things we'd like to have, programs we'd like to give to the marketplace, all sorts of that. We're trying to launch things into this world with absolutely no space to receive any sort of result. And often we don't have space because our mind is so active that we have lost our bearings quite a bit and we don't even realize it. When we lose our bearings, we feel lost, we feel worried, we feel stressed, we're efforting, we're always saying yes to everybody else, and we're then getting frustrated that there's nothing left for us. But when we lose our bearings, we want to get familiar with the symptoms of that. Because when we get familiar with the symptoms of that, we can easily bring ourselves back. And as we bring ourselves back, as we regain our bearings, naturally and automatically, the mental bandwidth opens up, the energetic bandwidth opens up, and the state of mind goes up. It happens automatically. You do not have to affirm your way into this. You do not need to talk yourself into this. You do not need to wake up at 6 a.m. and do your power affirmations to get there. If anything, that's the last thing you need to be doing, is filling an already busy mind with more content. As you regain your bearings, you become discouragement proof. Because the world starts looking differently to you. What once looked hopeless and in despair from this psychological state now looks fresh and filled with possibility. This is what's so beautiful, is that this change is just one thought away. It's not 3 books away. You got to read 3 books to get there. It's not, 3 more you know, failures away, and then you're going to be there. It's one thought away. That's what's so hopeful about this. This was so powerful about this, that it is built into us to go back up the elevator of consciousness. And as we do, as we're regaining our bearings, we start to see fresh possibility. We start to feel encouragement. We become discouragement proof. And that is key in business for those of you that are working for yourselves. To become discouragement proof is the greatest asset you could have, because the ship will sink at times, or rather it'll look like the ship is sinking at times. And it might even sink at times. It might, I keep hearing of some of the biggest success stories in the world being bankrupt. House of Gucci, did you watch that movie? Gucci was bankrupt before everything turned around. Ferrari versus Ford, I watched that as well on the plane on the way back from Mexico. Ferrari was bankrupt. Some of the coaches I've worked with, some of the biggest people in the industry, bankrupt. Now, I'm not saying you have to go bankrupt in order to come back up. What I'm saying is the ship might sink. It's part of the game. But if you'd like to get through a sinking ship, if you'd like to be able to navigate a sinking ship, be that in your business or in your personal life, then becoming discouragement proof and having an energetic and mental bandwidth that opens up easily in the face of any challenge is, quite frankly, some of the greatest assets you could have as you're moving through. So regaining our bearings isn't just about clearing our chakras and meditating and all of that. That's just part of the inner work. Regaining our bearings is really about giving ourselves permission to stop running on the treadmill in order to fix the problem. It's giving ourselves permission to open up the mental and energetic bandwidth enough that we're able to call in the bigger things, that we're able to navigate the sinking ship in whatever area that's happening, that we're able to turn the ship around. Your state of mind is everything. Because in a stronger state of mind, you can handle what's in front of you. And so regaining your bearings is an opportunity to let your state of mind go back up to its natural, lighthearted, strong, confident self. Questions at this point? Questions, suggestions, comments? Please feel free to come on. Anything you want to hear a bit more about, anything you want to ask. Just bring yourself on. Marie-Pierre.
Yes. Hi, Grace.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. My question is, how do you do that while being in and at the world? Can I give an example, maybe?
Yes, please.
Recently, we had the French election, and I got myself caught into debates, and basically the population is divided into two different perspectives. And I was aware that I was getting into it, and it was not necessary, but it was like the only way to communicate and to be with others. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I often realize how much my environment is very heavy. And at the same time, I'm like, well, it's where I live. So, or the other option is to stay in my own bubble and to, with my personal development books and in my own world. But then I just stay at home and I see no one.
So what's your question?
My question is, how do you keep this open field of energy while navigating what's happening around?
Mm-hmm.
And because I do meditation and I do some yoga, and for me it's still a challenge to not go into this the heaviness of the world, if that makes sense. Like the fear, the worry, all the thing we can hear.
Yeah. You know what really helped me with that, Marie-Pierre, is I remember Sydney Banks saying there are 7 billion worlds going on because there are 7 billion people in the world, and everybody is experiencing their own world based on how they're using thought. And what also really helped me was, I remember this very strong example of 2 women who had both been abused. And one of the women came out of that situation and went on to live quite a nice life. She got married, she had children, she didn't have relationship issues, she didn't use the memory of abuse, in other words, to prevent her from going ahead with her enjoyment of life. The other woman with the same sort of abuse ended up in and out of foster homes and in situations, and had a real issue with men and was very angry in the world, etc., etc. And she went on to create a different type of life for herself. These 2 women both experienced abuse from the one father. And yet, their experience of that was so different based on how they used their thinking. Our experience of the world is the same. It's not that we want you to go and lock yourself away and not engage the world, and you don't want to do that either. But you want to start to see that the feeling of heaviness has got nothing to do with what's going on in the world, and everything to do with how you're using this incredible power of thought. Because the feeling of heaviness is fantastic feedback. Oh my God, I'm thinking really heavy right now about this. It's not to say bad shit's not going on, it is. But where we have power and free will and the ability to even help the world is to use our thinking however we want, and in a way that is helpful. So is there anything within this that's resonating for you? Because I can keep going until it does.
Yes, it resonates. I cannot really explain how, but
the feeling is always letting us know how we're using our mind and what state of mind we're in. What we've learned, because nobody told us, is that the feeling we're in is because of the world, is because of other people. That's not true. That's the lie we have been innocently sold. The feeling is always letting us know the level of thinking we're in, the state of mind we're in, where we are on the elevator of consciousness. It is wonderful feedback. It is an incredible GPS system. It is a work of art. It's the most high-tech machine in the world, that we have this system built into us to feed back with symptoms like heaviness, loneliness, sadness, pain, to feed back where our state of mind is. And we can go ahead and get annoyed. I mean, that's the fun of it. We can go ahead and we can get annoyed about the world. We can get annoyed about politics. We can get annoyed about stuff. And then at some point, that gets intolerant, or that gets intolerable. You start to feel so ugh, that you kind of back off from it a bit. That helpful?
Yes. And so this is, you're saying that this feeling is just about how to use your thinking in a more helpful way. Like even if it's a dominant, like the collective, because we hear a lot about like the collective consciousness and how the collective consciousness influence our own state of consciousness. But despite of the dominant field of energy or the dominant field of consciousness, you can choose to use your thinking differently.
Yeah, it's the individual power that we all have. The collective, remember, is still waking up to this. This is a paradigm shift. What we're exploring is a paradigm shift. Not everybody's connected to that yet. The collective consciousness still thinks the feeling I'm in is because you did something to me. I'm going to feel better if there's a different president. Things are going to improve if I don't live in this particular area.
Mm-hmm. That's where I am like, now I'm like, okay, I have to move again. Like I spend my life moving from places to places.
Yeah. And do that if it's fun. But if you're doing that to escape, your feeling, it won't be long until that feeling returns in another environment. Might not be about politics, it might be about something else.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you for a great question. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else today? And remember, I'm sharing from what I see. It's so important that you all see for yourselves. You know, my role is to help you open up your bandwidth, and maybe some ways that I share or give examples sort of just lands for you. That's why we resonate together. But what you see for yourself, you keep. What comes to you is what you get to keep and bring out into the world. Anybody else got a question today, or a concern, or a comment, or a regain your bearings situation? One of the things I will say is that certainly I've spoken to a number of my clients recently who admitted to this, that you can't regain your bearings if you're doing 2 or 3 things at the same time. So I had a lovely conversation with a client last week where she said to me, you know, I was trying to be on a webinar, and at the same time I was listening to the webinar and I was trying to absorb what was in the webinar, but I was also emailing clients, and I was trying to get things done ahead of time. And we had this conversation about how you really cannot come to center or regain your bearings when you have too many apps opened, not just apps on your computer, but like apps personally. So in her case, she's trying to listen to a webinar. She's hardly getting to absorb any of the webinar because she's too busy trying to do the, she would have been safer just to choose one or the other to just focus on, and therefore be very present. Because when you're present to the thing you're doing or listening to, that is when you are centered. You don't even have to do a meditation to regain your bearings. If you get present to where you are, to what you're doing, it could be cooking, it could be reading, it could be listening, it could be writing, it could be running. When you get present to the one thing in front of you, you regain your bearings automatically. You go from scattered to focused in no time. And so I really do invite you in the coming week to just be there in one place at one time. You know, I shared this lovely story on Facebook. I hope most of you follow me on Facebook. If you don't, please do feel free to. But I continue to write about my experience of Francesco and life in Italy, and just things that I see. And one of the things that I saw when I was away in Mexico was I went out to dinner alone, and I was dining in the restaurant, and I was kind of lamenting a little bit, like, gosh, you know, God, I really wish he was here. And although I can dine alone and I've done it all over the world, I still would prefer to be dining with him, you know? And then I looked kind of to the left of me and I saw this couple. And he was on the phone and he was completely distracted. I don't know if he was trying to close a deal over dinner or what he was doing, but he was very distracted. And his wife arrived. And as soon as his wife arrived with the kid, he got up from the table and he took the kid and the phone and ran off. I don't know where he went. And she was there, and now she was on her own. And the food arrived and he still wasn't around. And then he came back and he sat down, and they must have had 5 minutes together before the phone went again. And then the baby started crying. And so she rushed the food and she said to him, right, let's go. there was zero presence, innocently. And I wondered how lonely that couple must feel, even though they're together in a fantastic, amazing, gorgeous resort. And I wondered how fast their minds must live and go. Not to be able to have any presence at the table. And so as I was writing about that, I was talking about the one thing that Francesco taught me through his example, not his words. For those of you that always worry about how am I going to help people, your example is what helps. Through his example, he taught me the power of presence. He was very good at doing one thing at one time and being in that one thing at one time. Now, I'm not saying he didn't end up on his phone. He did at times, but I'm saying it was the power of presence that was so evident. And so he didn't spend a lot of his time in life trying to regain his bearings, trying to fix his state of mind, trying to get back to center. He didn't need to do that a lot. He just lived in that feeling. And he would say the same to me. He would say, Grace, you live like that. You've taught me. But we don't see it in ourselves usually. I could see it in him. And I could see in this lovely young couple who looked like they had everything. They were young, they were good looking, they had a baby, they had each other. She had a Chanel handbag for what it's worth. Like she, they obviously were very, very well off in life. They were in this incredibly expensive resort together. But they both needed to regain their bearings. I know they would have left that resort without having felt they'd had a holiday at all. I know that whatever deal he was trying to do on the phone that night probably didn't really work out because he wasn't really there present. And if it did work out, I've no doubt that it cost him quite a bit in terms of his relationship with her that evening. So I share that with you just to illustrate and give example to the power of presence as a means to regaining your bearings, and to the fact that as you regain your bearings, your state of mind goes up automatically, your ability to become discouragement proof is there. Your vision is wider. You see more clearly. You see solutions, ideas, direction, rather than problems, despair, and hopelessness. And you open up mentally and energetically. Your bandwidth goes from that, a very, very, very busy mind full of hopelessness, to this. You open up physically, energetically, mentally, and that's what calls in the bigger things. I hope this has been helpful today. To finish, I will share with you that our new program is starting next month, in a couple of weeks, actually. If you have enjoyed today's conversation and you've felt yourself regaining your bearings, I invite you to check out that program. We have an early bird offer until April 30th. That's a few days away, that finishes. And that program is all about inviting this energetic and mental bandwidth to open up so you can call in bigger things. It's about inviting you to a new chapter. It's there to support you in regaining your bearings and holding your bearings. In other words, being able to maintain that. That program is all about being able to get yourself focused, going from scattered to focused, letting the elevator of consciousness come back up to the degree that you're seeing clearly. And of course, that program is there to really deepen your connection with the divine mind. So you're operating from wisdom more of the time, that you're familiar and directed by divine mind. And the divine mind has a new chapter for you. It's not the ideas that you're coming up with from that narrow mind, from that low bandwidth. The divine mind has a new chapter for you, a direction for you that you just may not have seen clearly yet, or that you may be getting nudges about, but it hasn't quite landed. So this program is really that invitation to experience all of that. If you want more info, I invite you now to have a look at www.gracefulcoaching.net. I'm just typing it in for you. / your new chapter. This is the first small group program I am offering and have offered in the last 2 years. I've done a lot of collaborations, but this is the first one that I have opened up solo. So I'm quite excited about it. It's a new chapter for me. We're on this journey together, creating this new chapter. And I know for me personally, this new chapter is about showing up more fully and more empowered. Your new chapter can be about whatever you want, but I can tell you now, it's whatever's on your heart. It's whatever you know has been calling you. And for some of you, that will include saying no to certain scenarios, situations that just aren't working anymore. So I'm not saying that it's all fluffy coming into this new chapter. There'll be a number of things that you realize need to go, or need to let go, or need to fall away. But before you address any of that and make decisions about that, I encourage you to, if it speaks to you, to be part of the program as a means to regain your bearings fully and to go from scattered to focused, and then make your decisions from that divine mind clarity. Then make your decisions about what needs to change, what needs to fall away, what can begin to be engaged, what can begin to be emerge from you. So look forward to having you there if that speaks to you. Early bird finishes April 30th. And in the meantime, have a lovely week, everybody. And we'll be back for Coaching Clinic next Tuesday. All right, lots of love. Ciao. Thanks for your question. Thanks for your energy. Ciao.